I went from this to this in 4 weeks. However, I'm not going to pretend that this was just chicken and broccoli. I will break down exactly my full 4-week enhanced transformation protocol. So first I will need to tell you that this protocol will absolutely not work without the proper diet. So the PEDs and the food that you are eating are working together in synergy and harmony. If you miss any of them from the equation, you will not get results like I did. The biggest misconception about getting shredded is that you need to stay full, you can't do too much cardio because then you will crash your metabolism and you will lose muscle. To be honest, this can be further from the truth. If you want to get in shape, you need to suffer, you need to do cardio, and you need to dig deep. If you are taking PEDs and you are not natural, you are not really risking any kind of muscle loss. So forget about staying full, forget about being strong, forget about looking big while doing this transformation. Go hard, dig deep, do everything you can and suffer. So what I did as far as the diet, basically I was following a very high protein, very low carb, very low fat diet. I was eating around 300 grams of protein daily and maybe around 50 grams of carbs around the training. So before training around 25 grams and after training around 25 grams. I also used small strategic refeeds when it was needed. I was basically doing these refeed days when my strength got really low. And I've only used these refeed days when I achieved a new level of leanness. So basically my body weight went down, I did a refeed day, it went up a little bit, and then when I was able to go below the previous low, then I could do a refeed day. But I did them only when it was needed and when I got really weak. These days were not cheat days. So these refeed days were utilizing clean carb sources, basically oatmeal, rice and bananas. That's about it. I didn't go to eat burgers, I didn't go to eat desserts. I did clean refeed days with around 150 to 200 grams of carbs. That was ideal for my body. So fat loss basically came from the deficit. It was not magic and it was not PEDs. Yes, the PEDs amplify the results, but if your diet is not on point, you will not get shredded. My training was very simple. I was basically lifting 6 days a week and I was training 1 to 2 body parts daily. I was also doing 20 to 30 minutes of low intensity cardio on every single training day. I used rest days when it was needed. So basically when I felt that I need an extra recovery day, I just took a rest day. I didn't have pre-planned rest days. I just took a rest day when it was needed and the average was around 1 rest day per week. So here is my individual hypothetic PED protocol that I did and you shouldn't copy. I used testosterone enanthate 200 milligrams weekly, injected daily subcutaneously with an insulin needle. This is basically the testosterone dosage that I use also for my TRT, and it puts my testosterone levels around 1000 and it puts my estradiol around 35 to 40 picograms per milliliter, which is perfect for me. I use also 325 units of HCG 3 times weekly to keep the testicular function going and have the downstream DHEA, pregnenolone, progesterone production. I've also used 2.5 units of human growth hormone before bed every single day. This is something that a lot of people are not utilizing. So basically a lot of people are just taking a bunch of steroids, meanwhile completely missing out on the growth hormone pathway. And this is a big mistake. Growth hormone at a low dosage is very safe and very side effect free. So basically you have 2 choices. You can either increase the anabolics or you can take a little bit of growth hormone and take less anabolics. I choose the second option every single time because it will result in less side effects and more results. I also used an aromatase inhibitor to control the estrogen. So basically I used 25 milligrams of exemestane twice a week. At the last week, I've also added 0.5 milligrams of anastrozole every single day to bring the estrogen down and get rid of some water retention. I also used clenbuterol for accelerating fat loss. I started out basically on 40 micrograms daily in the morning. Around week 2, I took a second dose of 40 micrograms of Clen before training. And at the last week, I've used also 20 micrograms of Clen right before bed. So this is something that I absolutely don't recommend because it will mess up your sleep quality, but to be honest, it's very effective. I also used a GLP-1 basically for the full 4 weeks. So at the first 2 weeks, I used tirzepatide 1 milligram weekly, and at the last 2 weeks, I increased it to 1.5 milligrams. This was basically allowing me to continue the diet and continue the huge calorie deficit and not really have cravings about food or not really think about food. Because if you was dieting pretty hard previously, I'm sure you know the feeling when you are basically starving and the only thing you can think about is food. With this new peptide, I was able to cut this part of the process fully. I also used an oral anabolic steroid, which is called oxandrolone. So this steroid is basically a very side effect free oral steroid, which is barely raising liver enzymes and doesn't hold any water. So basically I started out taking 5 milligrams daily and this was already giving me results. I slowly started to increase it until 30 milligrams daily, and at the last 5 days I switched to Winstrol. So Winstrol is quite similar as oxandrolone, but it's more liver toxic and it's hurting your joints because it's reducing collagen synthesis. All in all, Winstrol, in my opinion, is not a good option to take long term, but I like to utilize it for a couple of days before a photo shoot when I want to get really lean and really impressive. So basically, at the last 5 days, I continually increased the dosage from 40 to 70 milligrams daily, and I did take 70 milligrams at the last 2 days. So if you are someone who has experience with steroids, you could ask, why didn't I use Primo or Masteron, which are basically injectable options and are not liver toxic and very effective. So one reason for this is the short time frame. So basically I just started to take the 5 milligrams of Enevar because I wanted to try out the product, and I just decided that I will make the photo shoot in a couple of weeks after. So this is something that I didn't really plan to do, and I was just basically doing it on the go. And the other factor is that basically I'm always getting acne on injectables. So basically Primo and Masteron are messing up my skin quality big time, even if I just only take 50 milligrams weekly. For me, I didn't have the same experience with Anavar or Winstrol, so that's another reason why I choose to take them instead of Primo or Masteron. So now let's talk about the Peakweek, because this is crucial. The diet from day 5 to day 3 was basically meat and vegetables only, zero carbs. 2 days out from the show, I started the carb loading process. I didn't eat any junk food, I didn't eat pizza, I didn't eat burgers. I did basically cream of rice, honey, eggs and protein powder. That's it. I also reduced the protein intake by 50% because at the last 2 days I didn't try to build muscle. The goal with this diet was to get a flat stomach and full muscles until the photo shoot and no water retention. So this is another mistake that many guys are making, is that they are trying to eat too many carbs and they are just getting bloated and they are gaining water weight until the photo shoot. According to my experience, it's better to be underloaded than overloaded with carbs and spilling out and having the water retention and the bloated stomach. So with training at the last week, I didn't go crazy. I did basically short and intense lifting sessions, a little bit of cardio, but basically I was pulling back on the intensity as I got closer to the photo shoot. The day before the photo shoot, I basically did a full body pump out session when I basically didn't use heavy weights. The goal with this workout session was only to put the carbs at the right places, which is inside of the muscles. At the day of the photo shoot, I was resting fully. I didn't do any kind of training. So what did I change as far as the PEDs at the last week? Basically, as I said, I started to increase the Winstrol from day 5 until the photo shoot. And what I also did was taking out the HCG and the HGH because those are something that are holding water. So basically, I didn't take HCG for the last week and I took out the growth hormone 2 days out from the photo shoot. And as I said, I also started to take the anastrozole at 0.5 milligrams every single day on the last week. So this protocol may seem to be a lot and very complicated, But the reality is that the modern physiques that you are seeing on Instagram or YouTube are heavily enhanced. This protocol is very mild in the grand scheme of things. So I didn't use heavy dosages, I didn't take anything extreme, I just take a lot of things, but at moderate dosages that are not harming my health long term. Although this protocol was completely okay for me, it may not be okay for you. So please don't copy this protocol, because for one thing, you will not look like me. I guess you will have different results. And secondly, the risks are there. So maybe your body will not tolerate this the same way as my body did. If you can't execute naturally, enhancements won't save you. If you are not in the gym since 3-4 years at least consistently, and you are not following a great diet, and you didn't build your base physique already in those 3 to 5 years, you shouldn't take PEDs in general. Let me know in the comments what do you think about my cycle, about my results. Join my free community and subscribe to the channel.